I was 12 years old when I first learned I was born the wrong gender for my family's legacy. It was career day at school, and I stood at the front of the classroom with my head held high, declaring that I would one day run Mitchell Manufacturing, just like my father. My classmates clapped politely, but I remember the swell of pride in my chest. I was certain of my destiny. That night, as I passed the study on my way to bed, I overheard my parents talking. My mother's voice was soft and hopeful. "She's got such a head for business, Richard. You should see how she lights up when you talk about the company. She could really do it one day." My father's response was immediate, sharp, and final. "It doesn't matter. The company goes to David. That's tradition. Girls don't run manufacturing companies." Those words carved themselves into my bones. Years later, I stood in my brother's office, our father's old office, watching him sign the papers that would fire me from the company I had given my life to. "Nothing personal, Emma," David said with that smug half-smile he'd perfected since childhood. He slid the documents across his desk like they were nothing. "But let's be honest. You're not cut out for this. Maybe start a cute little boutique, something more feminine." I signed without flinching, though inside I felt the burn of every sacrifice I had made being dismissed in an instant. The Stanford MBA, the countless sleepless nights, the supply chain innovation I had designed, the one that boosted profits by 40% last year. None of it mattered. Not to him. Not to my father. Not to a family that believed I had the wrong chromosomes. "Clear out your desk by end of day," David added casually, already turning back to his phone. "And Emma, Dad was right. Girls don't belong in manufacturing." I walked out of his office with my head high, past employees who couldn't look me in the eye, past the systems I had built and watched David dismantle to make room for his golf buddies' half-baked ideas. In my office, mine for only one more hour, I began to pack up 15 years of my life. Photographs, awards, business plans my father had never even glanced at. At the bottom of a drawer, I found something that made me smile for the first time that day. A detailed list of every supplier, contractor, and logistics company Mitchell Manufacturing depended on, complete with contract renewal dates. David had never cared about the relationships I built, the trust, the favors, the quiet loyalty that kept the company running, but I did, and that was the difference. A shadow filled the doorway. Marcus Chen, head of logistics, stood there. His expression told me he already knew what had happened. "Need help with those boxes?" "I'm fine," I said, though my heart was pounding. "But Marcus, remember that conversation we had last month? About starting our own logistics company?" His eyes narrowed slightly, cautious. "The one where you mentioned having enough capital to buy out 3 major shipping contractors?" I pulled up an email draft I had prepared weeks ago, when I first realized this day was coming. "How would you like to be COO of Summit Logistics Incorporated, fully funded, ready to launch next week?" Marcus stepped inside, scanning the business plan. His jaw tightened as he pieced it together. "Emma, this could control the entire regional supply chain, if you got the right contracts, the ones up for renewal, the ones David doesn't even know about. You've been planning this for years." "I have," I said simply. "Why fight for a seat at their table when I can build my own?" Over the next 2 hours, word spread. One by one, people came. Sarah from accounting, passed over for a promotion so David could give the job to a friend. James from operations, ignored when he raised concerns about quality control. Each one, tired of being overlooked, accepted my offer to join Summit Logistics. By the time security arrived to escort me out, my team was in place and the plan was already in motion. "Goodbye, Emma," David called after me, smug as ever. "Some people just aren't meant for real business." I turned back, smiling in a way I knew would gnaw at him. "Goodbye, David. Give my best to Hansen Shipping while you still can." The confusion on his face was worth more than any parting paycheck. That night, I sat in my home office, surrounded by boxes of silly girl thoughts that would soon transform into the backbone of regional logistics. My phone buzzed. Jack Hansen, CEO of Hansen Shipping, confirming our Monday meeting. I looked at an old family photo on my desk. Dad stood proudly beside David, hand on his son's shoulder. I was off to the side, half out of the frame, forgotten. "Girls don't run manufacturing companies," Dad had said. He was right. I wouldn't be running a manufacturing company. I'd be running the entire supply chain they couldn't live without. Monday morning came with a storm of panicked texts from David. I ignored them, focusing instead on the Hansen shipping contract spread across my new conference table. Emma, this is brilliant, Jack Hansen said as he reviewed our proposal. Real-time tracking, optimized routes, consolidated shipping lanes. This could cut costs by 30%. The same proposal I gave Mitchell Manufacturing last quarter. I reminded him. They dismissed it as overcomplicating things. Their loss. Jack signed with a flourish. Summit Logistics is now our exclusive regional partner. Almost immediately, my phone buzzed again. I answered. What the hell did you do? David's voice cracked with panic. Hansen just cancelled our contract. Did they? How unfortunate. I heard they signed with some new logistics company. Summit something. You're behind this. Behind what, David? A better business model? Isn't that what you called real business? He cursed until I hung up. I had more important meetings to attend. By Wednesday, we secured 5 more contracts. By Thursday, we acquired the region's largest warehousing operation. By Friday, we unveiled our supply chain management system, the same one David had dismissed months ago. Mitchell Manufacturing stock dropped 15% today, Marcus reported as he handed me a coffee. Investors are panicking over supply chain instability. Just wait until next week, I said. Phase 2 begins Monday. It was simple and brilliant. We didn't just control shipping anymore. Soon, we would control raw materials. Every contract I had nurtured over the years was coming due within weeks. David never saw it coming, but he would. Soon. Emergency board meeting, Sarah announced, scrolling her tablet. Mitchell Manufacturing is in crisis. Their words, unprecedented supply chain disruptions. I could see it in my mind, David pacing that office he stole, fumbling through excuses as board members demanded answers. He'd blame everyone but himself. He always did. Over the following weeks, the dismantling was surgical. Every supplier they approached, we offered a better deal. Every shipping lane they tried to secure, we optimized a competing one. Piece by piece, their empire fell apart. And then, finally, the call I had been waiting for. Emma, my mother's voice was hesitant, almost pleading. We need to talk. I let the silence stretch, savoring it. About the company. Which one, Mom? I asked softly. Mitchell Manufacturing, or Summit Logistics? Because only one of us was thriving. A pause stretched across the line. Your father, he never meant. Never meant what? I cut in, my voice steady but edged with years of buried fire. Never meant to dismiss every idea I had? To hand the company to David just because he was a man? To let him run it into the ground while he ignored every warning I gave? Silence. Heavy, guilty silence. Finally, my mother spoke again, softer than I'd ever heard her. The board meeting is tomorrow. David, he's going to lose his position. The shareholders are furious. I almost laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. Sounds like a personnel issue. Nothing to do with me. Please, Emma, she said desperately. He's your brother. The word stung, not because I believed it, but because of what it implied, that I owed him something. That family meant loyalty, even when family had treated me as expendable. Funny, he hadn't been my brother when he smirked across the desk, firing me like I was nothing. He hadn't been my brother when he mocked my overcomplicated ideas. I hung up without another word, no regret, no second thoughts. But her plea lingered, not because I felt any obligation to save David, but because tomorrow's board meeting wasn't just about his downfall. It was about what came next. Would I settle for victory, or seize absolute dominance? I picked up my phone. Jack, I said when he answered, remember that expansion plan we discussed? Move it up. We announce at 9 a.m. tomorrow. The next morning, I sipped coffee in my glass-walled office at Summit Logistics while my screen flickered with the live feed from Mitchell Manufacturing's board meeting. David looked terrible. The confident heir apparent was gone, replaced by a pale, sweating man in a wrinkled suit. His hands shook as he tried to explain a 40% stock drop. We're exploring alternative supply chain options, he stammered, reaching out to new partners. There are no new partners, a board member snapped. Summit Logistics has locked up the entire regional network, and as of this morning, they announced a $200 million expansion. Face it, David, we're dead in the water. David tugged at his collar. His eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal. Maybe we could reach out to Summit, try to negotiate. The boardroom door opened. Oh, now you want to negotiate? Every head turned. I stepped inside, my Summit Logistics ID badge gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Dad half rose from his chair. Shock and disbelief etched into his features. Emma, what are you doing here? I smiled, calm and deliberate, representing the only company in this room that actually knows how to run a business. David's face twisted with fury. You planned this. You sabotaged us. I shook my head. No, David, I didn't sabotage anything. I built something better. Something you could have had, if you hadn't been so convinced that girls don't belong in business. I laid out my offer. It was fair, more than fair. Summit would absorb all employees, preserve the Mitchell name on select product lines, and ensure the legacy continued. The only thing that wouldn't survive was David's leadership. All in favor? The board chairman asked. Hands went up, one by one. Every director voted, even my father. After a long, weary pause, raised his hand. David staggered to his feet, his voice cracking. This isn't right, Dad, tell them. But Dad's voice was heavy with resignation. It's over, son. He turned to me. His eyes, for the first time in my life, carried something like humility. Emma, I was wrong about everything. I met his gaze without flinching. Yes, you were. I turned to leave, then glanced back at David. Oh, and don't bother packing your office. I had it cleared out this morning. Try not to feel too bad, some people just aren't meant for real business. His own words, hurled back at him, a perfect ending to a plan 15 years in the making. That evening, I sat in my true office, the one I had earned, not inherited. On the wall hung my first act as CEO, Mitchell Manufacturing stock certificate, signed over to Summit Logistics. Sarah appeared in the doorway. Your father is here. He stepped inside slowly, looking older, smaller than I remembered. The company you started is thriving, I said before he could speak. No thanks to your outdated ideas about who should run it. He exhaled, shoulders slumping. I'm sorry. I arched a brow. For what? Not believing in me? Dismissing me? Handing the company to David without a second thought? Each accusation landed like a blow. For all of it, he admitted. For underestimating you. For thinking talent had anything to do with gender. I studied him carefully, searching for insincerity. I found none. Well, I said at last, at least you're learning. He nodded. I am. Then, with surprising hesitation, he gestured to the door. That's actually why I came. I want you to meet someone. A young woman rolled in beside him, a sharp-eyed engineer in a wheelchair, her presence radiating quiet brilliance. Emma, this is Jessica Chen, Dad explained. She's a prodigy from MIT. I thought, you might want to hear her out. I raised an eyebrow. And why is that? He actually blushed. Because when I saw her proposals, I remembered all the ones of yours I never read. I didn't want to make the same mistake twice. Jessica looked nervous but determined. Mr. Mitchell said you might be interested in my AI integration models for production efficiency. I smiled. I am. But first, tell me about yourself. Not your gender, not your disability, just your vision for the future of manufacturing. Her eyes lit up, and as she spoke, I caught Dad watching us, pride and regret warring in his expression. Later, Mom visited my office. I saw David today. How's customer service treating him? I smirked. She sighed. He's humbled, and he wanted me to give you this. She handed me a sealed envelope. Inside, in David's uneven handwriting, was a letter. Emma, I spent years believing I deserved success just because of who I was. You proved success is earned. You built something incredible, and you beat me fair and square. I won't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it, but I will say this. I see it now. I see you now. I'm proud of you. David. I exhaled slowly, folding the letter. I didn't need his pride, but maybe, just maybe, I appreciated it. I reached for my phone. David, be in my office tomorrow, 8 a.m. sharp. Bring your customer service reports and any real ideas you've gathered from actually listening to our clients. The next morning, he arrived. Gone was the arrogant swagger. What replaced it was humility and, to my surprise, substance. For an hour, he outlined customer complaints, inefficiencies, and proposed solutions. He hadn't just done the work, he understood it. Not bad, I said. How would you like to head our new customer experience division? His eyes widened. You'd trust me with that? Trust is earned, just like leadership, just like respect. That's how this company works now. And so it did. A year later, Mitchell Manufacturing was something unrecognizable from the company my father built or destroyed. Jessica's AI systems transformed production. David's customer-first approach rebuilt our reputation. Summit Logistics remained the backbone. But the real revolution was cultural. Walk into any facility now and you'll see leadership built on merit, not tradition. Jessica mentoring engineers, David working beside her, Dad, half retired, observing with something between pride and penance. One morning, Marcus tossed a magazine onto my desk. The cover showed me on the factory floor, headline blazing. The Manufacturing Maven, How Emma Mitchell Revolutionized an Industry While Breaking Glass Ceilings. Marcus grinned. Best part's the sidebar, your mentorship program. The Mitchell Future Leaders Program, my passion project. A doorway for overlooked talent. Brilliant minds once dismissed for being the wrong gender, the wrong background, the wrong anything. People like Jessica, people like me. That afternoon, Dad visited again. In his hands was a familiar leather portfolio, the one that once held my rejected proposals. I found these while cleaning out my old office, he said quietly. Finally read them. They were brilliant. I'm sorry I couldn't see that sooner. I flipped through the pages. The plans that had become the foundation of an empire. Want to hear my latest proposal? Expanding our mentorship program internationally. He sat down, his eyes filled with something I had waited a lifetime to see, respect. Tell me everything. And I did. Because the greatest revenge isn't proving someone wrong. It's proving yourself right, again and again, until even the deepest prejudice collapses under the weight of undeniable success.